Look at your screen. Look at the numbers. The S&P 500 is smashing all-time highs. Real estate prices are defying gravity. The media tells you this is a soft landing. They tell you the economy is resilient. They tell you we are growing. But let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. What if everything you see on that stock ticker isn't a measurement of growth, but a measurement of panic? What if the reason your house costs a fortune and the stock market is exploding isn't because companies are more valuable, but because the money you are using to buy them is dying? Welcome to the scariest phase of an economic life cycle. This isn't a bull market. This isn't a recovery. In the dark corners of Austrian economics, there is a name for this specific phenomenon. A moment where the currency is on the brink of total collapse, yet the charts look like a paradise. It is called the crack-up boom. And if you are feeling a knot in your stomach, that financial pain point where your paycheck vanishes before the month ends, yet you see Lamborghinis on Instagram and record profits on Wall Street, you are not crazy. You are just the victim of the greatest wealth transfer in human history. Today, we aren't just looking at charts. We are exposing the hidden mechanism that creates this illusion. We are going to show you why the system is rigged to force you into poverty while the elite secure their lifeboats. Before we pull back the curtain on this engineered collapse, I need to know who is awake. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you feeling the inflation in your city? Let's get a roll call of the reality on the ground. And if you want the unfiltered truth about your money that the mainstream news is paid to hide, smash that subscribe button right now. Let's get into it.
To understand why 2024 and 2025 look the way they do, we have to travel back to the most terrifying economic laboratory in history, the Weimar Republic, Germany, 1923. Most people know the cliché images. You've seen the photos of children building pyramids out of stacks of cash. You've heard stories of people using banknotes as wallpaper because it was cheaper than buying actual wallpaper. But that is the end of the story. What the history books conveniently leave out is the middle, the phase right before the total collapse. In the early 1920s, as the German mark began to lose value, something strange happened. The German stock market didn't crash. It didn't flatline. It exploded upwards. It was called the Catastrophe, the catastrophe boom. As the government printed money to pay off insurmountable war debts, the smart money, the industrialists, the bankers, the well-connected, realized the game was over. They knew the currency was doomed. So what did they do? Did they hold cash? No. They panicked. But it wasn't a panic of selling, it was a panic of buying. They bought factories, they bought land, they bought art, they bought stocks, they bought anything that couldn't be printed by a central banker. This massive wave of buying sent asset prices to the moon. On paper, the German stock market was the best performing market in the world. If you looked at the charts, it looked like an economic miracle. But in reality, the gains were an illusion. The stock market wasn't going up. The currency was falling through the floor. Does that sound familiar? Fast forward to today. Look at the post-2020 economy. We saw governments around the world, led by the U.S. Federal Reserve, print trillions of dollars in a matter of months to save the economy from a global shutdown. They flooded the system with liquidity. And what happened? Did we see a massive expansion of manufacturing? Did we see a golden age of production? No. We saw the everything bubble. Crypto, stocks, real estate, used cars, luxury watches, everything skyrocketed. Just like in Weimar Germany, the asset prices detached from the economic reality. The factories aren't producing double the goods, but their stock prices are double the cost. Why? Because there is too much currency chasing too few assets. In 1923, the German government blamed speculators and foreigners for the rising prices, refusing to admit that their own money printing was the cause. They gaslighted the population, telling them the inflation was temporary, a result of the war, a result of supply chains. Sound familiar? We were told inflation was transitory. We were told it was just supply chain bottlenecks. We were told the economy is strong because consumer spending is up. But consumer spending is only up because things cost more, not because we are buying more. The parallels are terrifyingly precise. In the Weimar crack-up boom, the middle class was wiped out. They held on to their cash, believing the government's promises that prices would come down. They saved diligently in savings accounts, and they watched their life savings turn into dust. Meanwhile, the debtors, the people who borrowed massive amounts of money to buy hard assets, became the new kings. Inflation wiped away their debt, while the assets they bought retained value. Now, look at the global debt levels today. Governments are $34 trillion in debt. Corporations are leveraged to the hilt. The only way out is to inflate the debt away, to pay back creditors with money that is worth less than when it was borrowed. The government is playing the same playbook as 1923. They are debasing the currency to save the sovereign debt market. And just like then, they are using the stock market as a billboard to claim success. Look at the S&P 500. The economy is booming. Sound familiar? It should, because you are living through the Catastrophe of the 21st century. But this time, the machine is digital, the leverage is higher, and the collapse won't just be contained to one country.
This brings us to the man who predicted this exact scenario almost a century ago, the Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises. Mises identified that this phenomenon happens in stages. Stage 1, the public thinks inflation is temporary. They save money, waiting for prices to drop. Stage 2, the public realizes inflation is not stopping. They start buying things they don't need, just to get rid of the cash. Stage 3, the crack-up boom, the complete loss of faith in the currency. A frantic flight into real values. We are currently transitioning from stage 2 to stage 3. But here is the twist. Here is the part that isn't in the standard textbooks. The crack-up boom isn't just a natural phenomenon. In our modern age, it is enabled by a specific hidden mechanism. A mechanism that allows the elite to access the lifeboats before you even know the ship is sinking. You see, in 1923, the money printing was clumsy. Physical notes were printed. Today, it's sophisticated. It's hidden behind complex terminology that makes your eyes glaze over. There is a specific plumbing in the financial system, a shadow market that dictates who gets the fresh money first and who gets the inflation last. It creates a hierarchy of theft. If you think this is just about printing money, you are missing the smoking gun. The real crime is happening in a market you likely have never heard of, involving a concept called the Cantillon Effect, weaponized through something called the Repo Market. This is the mechanism that ensures they get rich while you get expensive groceries. And when I show you the numbers, when I show you exactly how they are siphoning value from your bank account without touching your debit card, the receipt is wilder than you think. Let's simplify the most complex theft in history. We need to talk about the Cantillon Effect. Richard Cantillon was an 18th century economist who realized a fundamental truth. Money is not neutral. When new money is created, it matters who gets it first. The first receivers of new money, banks, government, large corporations, get to spend it before prices rise. They buy assets like stocks, houses, and gold at yesterday's prices. By the time that money circulates down to you through wages or government handouts, prices have already risen to reflect the new money supply. The first receivers steal purchasing power from the last receivers. It is a transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, disguised as monetary policy. Now, let's apply this to the modern machine, quantitative easing, and the shadow banking system. When the Federal Reserve prints money, they don't drop cash from helicopters into your backyard. They buy assets, like bonds, from major banks. They press a button and, poof, billions of dollars appear in the accounts of the primary dealer banks, the Godzillas of Wall Street, like J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs. These banks now have massive reserves. Do they lend it to you for a small business? No, that's too risky. Instead, they funnel this liquidity into the shadow banking system, specifically the repo market and derivatives market. The derivatives market bets on the price of things rather than the things themselves, is estimated to have a notional value of over $1 quadrillion. That is more than the entire wealth of the planet. This ocean of new money floods into financial assets. Hedge funds and institutions use this cheap, freshly printed cash to buy stocks and real estate. This massive buying pressure drives the prices up. This explains the disconnect. The economy, Main Street, is starving because the money isn't going there. The market, Wall Street, is booming because the money is trapped there, inflating asset prices. This creates the illusion of prosperity. You see the S&P 500 hitting 5,000, 5,500, 6,000, and you think, wow, companies are doing great. No, the dollar is just worth less, so it takes more dollars to buy the same share of a company.
Let's look at the numbers. Since 2020, approximately 40% of all US dollars in existence were printed. If you increase the supply of something by 40%, its value must drop. If the stock market goes up 40%, but the currency drops 40%, you haven't made any money. You have just stayed afloat. But if you didn't own assets, if you just held cash, you drowned. This mechanism creates a moral hazard. The big players know that if the market drops, the Fed will print more money to prop it up. They are gambling with a safety net woven out of your purchasing power. This is parasitic finance. Let's look at the housing market. Why can't you afford a home? Housing affordability in the U.S. recently hit its lowest point in nearly 40 years. Is it because houses are suddenly 400% better? No, it's because private equity firms, the first receivers of the Cantillon money, are buying entire neighborhoods to turn them into rentals. They are using the free money to outbid you. You are competing for a home against a printing press. You will lose every time. Now let's talk about the debt that fuels this crack-up boom. The U.S. government is now paying over $1 trillion annually just in interest on the national debt. That is more than the entire defense budget. Where does the government get the money to pay that interest? They can't tax you enough to cover it, so they borrow more. They print more. It is a death spiral. And who captures the benefit? According to Oxfam, since 2020, the richest 1% have captured almost 2/3 of all new wealth created globally. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. The system is designed to funnel the inflation proceeds to the top. This leads us to the panic buying phase of the crack-up boom. As the smart money realizes the debt spiral is unfixable, they stop buying bonds and start buying everything else. This is why you see meme stocks exploding. This is why you see crypto running. This is why luxury goods are sold out. It is not optimism. It is a flight to safety. Imagine you are in a house that is catching fire. The fire is the devaluation of the currency. The exits are narrow. The smart money smelled the smoke years ago and started walking out. Now, the flames are visible. The upper middle class is starting to run for the exits, buying second homes and gold. Soon, the general public will smell the smoke. When they rush for the door, when they try to convert their paycheck into anything tangible the moment they get it, that is the crack-up. That is hyperinflation. The scary part? The mechanism of the shadow banking system allows this to happen at the speed of light. In 1923, you had to run to the store with a wheelbarrow. Today, you can dump a currency on your phone in seconds. The velocity of money can shift instantly. The boom we are seeing now, this relentless rise in asset prices despite a crumbling real economy, is the engineered exit. The elite are pumping the market one last time to sell their positions to retail investors like pension funds, 401ks, and you at the top, swapping their paper wealth for hard resources before the reset happens. This is a game of musical chairs, and they are the ones controlling the music.
We are walking on the edge of a razor. The modern financial system is a marvel of complexity, but it is built on a foundation of sand, or rather, a foundation of borrowed time. The stakes today are infinitely higher than in Weimar Germany. The system is global. The derivatives exposure ties every major bank together. If one falls, they all fall. The crack-up boom is the final siren song. It seduces you into thinking everything is fine because the line on the chart is green. But you must understand the psychology of denial. Most people will not believe the currency can fail until it is too late. They trust the institutions. They trust the Fed. They trust the TV. This trust is the liquidity the elite use to exit. Don't be the person holding the bag of worthless paper when the music stops. Don't mistake a dying currency for a bull market. The soaring prices are not a sign of your wealth increasing, they are a sign of your money dying. The wealth transfer isn't an accident, it is the feature, not the bug. The boom is their getaway car. So I leave you with this final question. Are we wiser now than the people of 1923? Or are we just walking the exact same path, wearing better suits and holding iPhones? If you refuse to be a victim of this system, If you want to understand how to protect yourself when the crack up turns into the crash, you need to be subscribed to this channel. Share this video with someone who thinks the economy is doing great. Wake them up. I'll see you in the comments. Stay skeptical, stay prepared.